All right, warm day in Orange County is in the books, and practice is over for the 49ers. Their defense today, God, that pass rush was phenomenal. I counted 6 sacks for the 49ers. Other people might have counted 7 sacks for the 49ers, but still, the pass rush is back, and Nick Bosa hasn't even returned yet. So, good news for the 49ers, and that's what the article's about. If you see here just to my left on the screen, the 49ers training camp, D'Amico Ryan's aggressive defense yields multiple sacks against the Chargers. That's up on the Athletic, so you can check it out whenever you have the chance. I'm going to put the link into the comments section right now and reshare it here just so everybody has a chance to read it. But I think that the 49ers, one of the vibes here of training camp has been that this team is going to be able to get after the passer the way that it did in 2019. Maybe not at a historic clip like they did over the first 9 or 10 weeks over that season, but really, really effectively again. And obviously, when you have Nick Bosa back, when you have Dee Ford back, when you've added Sansom Ebukam, when you get that second-year jump from Javon Kinlaw, that obviously would be the expectation, right? But until it actually happens on the field in a game, you have to be a little bit skeptical because the 49ers were nowhere near as good rushing the passer last season in 2020 after all those injuries. But I'll tell you what, because Nick Bosa hasn't even, rejoined the team for team drills yet, and because they're getting heavy pressure, not only against themselves, as we've seen in practice, but also against the Chargers now in these joint practices, I think that you have to be optimistic about this 49ers defensive line and its ability to rush the passer. Now, Nick Bosa is expected back next week. He's one of the best pass rushers in all of football, so that's going to be extremely exciting for the 49ers. But I'll tell you who was already back today for the team, and that's Dee Ford. And Dee Ford looked good today. Several pressures for Dee Ford, and I mean, the pressure rate was insane for him because he still is being rationed into action, very limited action for Dee Ford. I think that's smart. It was a back injury that he's coming back from, and the 49ers want to make sure that he's good to go for week 1. So in limited nickel pass rushing snaps, this guy is getting to the quarterback. He looks fresh. The 49ers want to keep him fresh. And today he had one certain sack for sure, and that was working with the second team against the Chargers. Well, I guess it was the third team right tackle. So what Dee Ford should be doing against the third team right tackle, he absolutely did in this game. Just completely bullied him, pushed him back into Easton Stick's lap, and logged the sack. Now, you can't touch the quarterback in these practices, so it wasn't a violent takedown or anything. But from what I saw, Easton Stick would have had no chance to get away from Dee Ford. A couple qualifiers. The Chargers were potentially the second worst pass blocking line in the entire NFL last season. It wasn't good. If you go by ESPN's pass block win rate, the Chargers ranked number 31. So it was rough for them last year. But they have added Corey Linsley, who is an all-pro center from the Green Bay Packers. So theoretically, Linsley was playing today. Should make it all better for the offensive line. At least that's what the 49ers offense is hoping for from Alex Mack. Now, the second qualifier is the Chargers were missing both of their starting tackles in this practice on Thursday. Brian Bulaga, the right tackle, was out. Rashawn Slater, the rookie left tackle, was out. So the 49ers were working against 2 backup tackles. Take all of that and factor it in. I think that we definitely need to mention that the 49ers were working against a subpar offensive line at practice today. But, and this is a big but, and I think this is the main point of all of this, 6 or possibly even 7 sacks in a practice where you have at most, 40 or 50 passing plays. I think it was 23 throws for Justin Herbert, maybe 7 throws for Easton Stick, and maybe 5 throws for Chase Daniel. So that's only 35 plays. Yeah, so that's 6 or 7 sacks on 35 dropbacks for the 49ers. Or I guess, if I didn't count the completion, so on 40. So just put it this way, 7 sacks on 40 dropbacks. That is one hell of a sack rate, and the pressure rate was even higher. I don't care who the offensive linemen are. This is the National Football League, and that's an insane pressure rate that the 49ers logged at practice today. So I didn't watch Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance today. Matt Barrows, my colleague, was on that field. He saw the offense of the 49ers work against the Chargers defense. Based on what I understand, Jimmy Garoppolo made a couple of really nice passes, and he also threw an interception to Asante Samuel Jr. But I watched the 49ers defense work against that Chargers offense, And that pass rush was impressive today. Question right here, did Bosa play? No, Bosa's going to be back next week. So the fact that I'm saying all this and Nick Bosa didn't even play, that's good news for the 49ers. He should be back next week, potentially even get some tune-up action against the Raiders. Maybe they'll just hold him out for week 1. But we could also go to my Twitter where I have some videos of some of the one-on-one action from today. So why don't we pop this open? There's Jimmy Garoppolo, speaking of the guy. I tweeted a lot today. First, we could show you the fans. There you go. A lot of 49ers fans. You see a lot of red in the stands at Costa Mesa. The sun was burning down hot on us today. It was not cool out there, that's for sure. Then we'll go to some of these one-on-one drills, and I'll make this a bit bigger. So this one right here, one-on-ones are typically won by the offense. This is Justin Herbert working to Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen beating Jason Verrett. Now, Allen and Jason Verrett are former teammates with the Chargers, and they still work out together in the summers in Orange County. So they're very familiar with each other's moves. And on round 1, Keenan Allen got Jason Verrett. So no harm, no foul. That's what happened. Jared Maiden here got beat by KJ Hill. See Maiden fly out of the screen. Some of the more impressive 49ers reps came from Diamador Lenore. Here's Lenore working against John Hurst. I think Hurst got him on this one, yeah, but it was a nice fight. You see Lenore's helmet pop off. And I believe that I got a good one of Lenore working against Austin Prohl, Ricky Prohl's son, who was with the 49ers for a while. And Austin Prohl was upset with me on Twitter because I said that Lenore kept up with him here. But I think it's clear that Diamador Lenore did keep up with Austin Prohl. Look, Prohl beats him off the line. But look at that closing speed from Lenore. Now, the throw is terrible. Nobody's pretending that the throw was good. But if you watch this again, just watch the closing speed here from Lenore. After he gets beat off the line, Prohl just can't get away from him. Even if that ball's on the money, I think Lenore's in a good spot to make a play. So I thought, I was just filming the 49ers DBs against the Chargers receivers in those drills. There was also an altercation, kind of just a yelling match between B.W. Webb, and that's the 49ers cornerback, and Tyrone Johnson right here. It's the Chargers receiver. That's Corey Undlin, the 49ers defensive backs coach. And then in the blue, that is Brandon Staley, the Chargers head coach. So you'll see Brandon Staley yanking his guy, Tyrone Johnson, out of the skirmish. They didn't want another fight. And then here in the background, look at this nice play by Kai Nakua, 49ers defensive back, knocking the ball out over there. So a lot going on in one video. You have B.W. Webb talking some shit over there to Tyrone Johnson. You have Brandon Staley, Chargers head coach, pulling him away. And then you have Kai Nakua right here, knocking the ball away from Jared Cook, the tight end. Good play. Talanoa Hufanga gives him the high five. So it was a good day out there at practice. It was nice and warm. I think I got a little bit of a suntan. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a burn, but I think we'll be fine. And then afterward, you had Kyle Shanahan doing some talking. I think what Shanahan said right here, it's funny, you talk about the B.W. Webb altercation. I believe that Shanahan started talking about the fight. But I know the Raiders and the Rams had an altercation, so Shanahan was happy that there was no actual fight during this practice, even though a couple of those guys were talking a little bit of trash to each other. Then Jimmy Garoppolo spoke in full pads afterwards. So you can kind of see him here. And we also talked to Fred Warner, and I did not post video of Fred Warner, so we'll keep it at that. But Fred Warner made a great play on Donald Parham Jr., who's 6'8", Chargers tight end. Fred knocked the ball away in the back of the end zone. And speaking of Diamador Lenore, this is a player who's coming along. He had an interception to end the 2-minute drill at the end of practice today. He was working against John Hurst, who's lower down on the pecking order for the Chargers. But Lenore was just being a pest. He was being physical. And they threw flags at the end of the play, at the end of the interception. I thought initially, did they flag Lenore? But I'm almost sure that they flagged John Hurst for offensive pass interference. And if you look at some of the fan replays, John Hurst is grabbing Lenore, who just ate him alive, got really good positioning. And I think it was Easton Stick who threw the football. Maybe it was Chase Daniel. It wasn't Herbert, but it was a bad throw. Lenoir was in position to pounce. He grabbed the interception, and that ended practice. The 49ers sideline was extremely excited. And I think Lenoir is a player, just with that feistiness, he's the anti-Akello Witherspoon. Like Akello Witherspoon during his rookie year, everybody was just more physical than him. And you could tell that, oh, God, this might be a struggle. Lenoir, maybe he's a rookie. Maybe he's not quite as strong as some of these veterans, but he's not afraid to get there and get dirty. And I think Ambry Thomas isn't afraid of that either, although it's more clear to me that Ambry Thomas still needs some more time in the weight room to be fully ready for the NFL level. So you got to be excited about both of these guys. What the 49ers did today is they mixed in that second team secondary, Hufanga, Ambry Thomas, Deommodore Lenoir. Those guys mixed in with the first team pass rush. So they got work against Justin Herbert, which I thought was valuable. And to me, they don't seem like complete liabilities out there. They're not going to turn into a bunch of Brian Allens out there, okay? I think that is important as far as depth goes. And another name that I would watch out for, and, please don't, shut off my YouTube channel or anything here or try to throw tomatoes or eggs at me. But Dante Johnson is a veteran that the 49ers obviously trust. Emmanuel Mosley's out with the hamstring here for the week, and Dante Johnson started at cornerback opposite Jason Verrett today. He gave up a catch to Jared Cook. He gave up a catch to Keenan Allen, but none of those were big receptions. But he also broke up a nice Justin Herbert pass with a dive, and he reached out. And Dante Johnson's obviously a veteran. It's very clear that Ambry Thomas and Deommodore Lenoir are rookies physically. Johnson's got a little bit more muscle on him, and he's one of those guys that, I think the 49ers trust him. He played some nickel last year. He could play on the outside. They trust him to be a backup cornerback. And beyond Verrett and beyond Emmanuel Mosley, this team – it drops off to rookies really quick. And the question is, are you going to trust those fresh rookies right away? If the 49ers don't fully trust them, don't be surprised if Dante Johnson makes the 53-man roster. So please don't shoot the messenger. I know that Dante Johnson's a polarizing name because Trent Baalke drafted him, and he's been on 6 different teams. I'm not saying he's going to start, but I think that the 49ers may want to insulate their cornerback depth with a veteran, and he seems to be a player that they trust because he started opposite Jason Verrett today. On the aggregate, we talk about the pass rush. We talk about the 6 or 7 sacks. That's all great news for the 49ers. Another standout today was obviously Fred Warner is always a standout, right? The guy is so good. Dre Greenlaw was a standout today. And Fred Warner told me after practice that Dre, I didn't know this, but Dre's actually lost some weight. He's cut some weight this year. So, the big weakness with Dre Greenlaw has been pass protection. And I don't think, well, let me rephrase that. I don't think it's been a weakness, but if you look at the game of Dre Greenlaw, ever since he came into the NFL in 2019, he has been a phenomenal tackler, even better than Fred Warner up until last year where Warner raised his tackling level up to about Greenlaw's. But Greenlaw's been one of the 49ers' best tacklers now for 2 years running. It's been the coverage that's needed to catch up. Well, Fred told me that Dre's lost a little bit of weight, and he is just flying around the field. And, Dre Greenlaw always has the knack of making the stop ahead of the line to gain. We remember Seattle 2019, right? We remember Washington 2020, the game that the 49ers hosted in Arizona. Remember that third down stop that Dre Greenlaw made inches short of the line to gain, that first down marker? He has that instinct. He has that nose, not only for the football, but where to be on the field to make sure that the offense doesn't attain what it needs to. And today, Dre Greenlaw came through. Beautiful tackle of Austin Eckler on a Herbert pass into the flat, just short of the first down marker. And that made the Chargers attempt a field goal to end their 2-minute drill. And it was a 56-yard field goal that the Chargers missed. So Greenlaw had what I thought was one of the plays of the day defensively. And then the very next drive, when the Chargers' second team tried to run a 2-minute drill, Deommodore Lenoir shut it down with that interception. So between Greenlaw and Lenoir, the 49ers stopped the Chargers both times in their 2-minute drill tries. The 49ers notched 6 sacks without Nick Bosa even being in the lineup, with Dee Ford looking really good. And the 49ers, I think just in general, defensively, just didn't allow too many big plays. There was one that stood out, and it was the tight end I was talking about earlier, Donald Parham Jr. He scored on a big touchdown, 70-yarder, where he split the 49ers' first-team safeties, Tavon Wilson and Jimmy Ward. It might have been a busted coverage. I didn't have a chance to ask anybody about it. I will in the coming days. But Parham Jr. was wide open, and neither Wilson nor Jimmy Ward was able to touch him. So that was the one big blemish. Other than that, I thought the 49ers just kept the lid on Herbert. I thought, Herbert's really good. The ball spun out of his hands. He's really accurate on a lot of those short to intermediate passes. So he got his yardage. He went 17 to 23, but it's about those disruptive plays. And the 49ers sacked Herbert 3 times. Greenlaw was able to shut down Eckler on that 2-minute drill. And Dante Johnson had that big pass breakup. They dialed up the blitzes at the right times. I thought it was a really encouraging start for the 49ers defense against their first actual opponent of the season. Because the Chiefs, that doesn't count. The 49ers first team defense sat against the Chiefs. All those guys were on the bench. We saw a couple snaps from the starters, but that was about it. But in this game, against possibly a shoddy offensive line, but against a really good quarterback and against some good receivers, Jared Cook is a good tight end. Austin Eckler is a good running back. 49ers made some plays defensively, and I think that's the takeaway from this day. Now, the thing I'm going to leave you guys with is the 49ers and their blitzing tendencies. You heard me say that Fred Warner blitzed and got a sack. I should also mention that Dre Greenlaw blitzed and notched a sack. So this, sack parade didn't just come from the defensive linemen. The 49ers are being aggressive schematically. And this is something I said to look out for during these practices against the Chargers. The 49ers are going to try to debut some of the stuff that they're doing here that they're going to use in the regular season. Remember in 2019 when the 49ers had an awesome defensive line, Nick Bosa, Dee Ford roaring around the edge, Ronald Blair was there for half the season. I mean, those guys were getting pressure with 4. I mean, don't forget DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead too. But the point is that the defensive linemen were generating the pressure. And in Robert Saleh's 4-3 scheme, there wasn't a whole lot of blitzing. Well, then everybody got hurt in 2020, so the 49ers had to manufacture the pressure. So obviously that's exactly what they did. They stepped up and they blitzed. In fact, the 49ers blitz rate, according to Pro Football Reference, increased from about 21% in 2019 to 33% in 2020. Now, that's an increase of about 60%, right? I mean, that's a big increase from 20 to 30%. That's a lot more blitzing that they did in 2020, in large part because they needed to manufacture that pressure. Well, we're moving here into 2021, and the 49ers are obviously going to be restocked along the defensive line. Nobody can predict how healthy they're going to stay over the course of the year, but they're obviously healthier now than they were in 2020, and Nick Bosa is coming back next week. What I think, though, is that how healthy they are will end up being relatively irrelevant to how DeMeco Ryans plays this. DeMeco Ryans wants to be aggressive, and I think even if the 49ers are at full health up front with Nick Bosa, I still think they're going to be blitzing a lot more than they did in 2019. It's part of the press man coverage on the outside that he's going to be adding into the mix to a much greater extent, and I think it's just part of his overarching defensive strategy. I think DeMeco wants to get Fred blitzing because Fred's so good at it, and I think today, Dre Greenlaw having lost some weight, he's got a little bit more stride to his step. I think he wants Dre Greenlaw rushing more and maybe the strong side linebacker rushing a little bit more. So today we saw an aggressive 49ers defense notch 6 or 7 sacks, however you want to score it. We saw at least 2 of those come from blitzing linebackers, and I think that's going to be a theme for this season as the 49ers try to put heat on opposing quarterbacks. So it was a good day for DeMeco Ryans' unit. We'll see what happens tomorrow. That's going to be up to Matt Barrows to tell you, though, because I'm going to watch the quarterbacks tomorrow. Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers starter, and Trey Lance, the guy that's going to get some action this season, playing at that QB2 spot. Going to watch both of those guys against the Chargers defense. So anyway, be back tomorrow. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.